Welcome to Working with InDesign with a few effects. So let me just take you through just the setup here. Now what I've got, I'll just move this a little bit more into the mix there, it's a bit better. What I've got is essentially a design which I think is pretty finished. And we've got some headline text, we've got the graphic, we've got the body text here, seems to be nicely designed. And here's a graphic at the end. It's got a text wrap in it, and we've got this drop cap. This drop cap is a little bit like an illuminated manuscript. So what we're going to do is look at how we create this, how we look at a little bit better alignment of the text, and maybe there's something else we can do with the type, looking at inverse leading, and also going away from just normal text, true type, into open type to variable type, just to see what the differences are. So we've got some dropped shadow on this text as well. So number one, I'm just going to go through and just have a little bit of a look at this text, even with the drop shadow and all, and I'm just going to look at an inverse leading. So this is just sort of normal leading, and if I just come up here at the moment, I'm going to make sure I highlight all the text, so it's all highlighted, and I'm going to click on my character, and it's basically 71 point and it's on 85.2, which I think is auto there. So you see we've got auto. Now what you can do, of course, you can choose any leading to space it out, but what you see in this image here is downstrokes and upstrokes, basically descenders and ascenders. So we can actually play because these work quite nicely within the design. So you have to consider on how you're putting your headline together. Let's just have a check of this. So what I'm going to do is, if this is 71 point, instead of auto leading, what I might do is let's drop it down. Maybe I'll just go to one of the settings here and I'm going to go to 60 point, and I'll just click off that. So straight away you can play with the ascenders and descenders. So this text is not going to be very good for body copy, but you can certainly tighten it up if that's what you want to do with the image. So just consider on using inverse leading and considering your upstrokes and your downstrokes, your ascenders and descenders, and where they're placed in order to get that working really well. Okay, now just to completely destroy this after basically putting that together nicely, I'm going to have a look at my text a little bit here in the headline. So let's go and have a look a little bit at that, and let's see. Okay, now I've got Garamond up here, which is a good font, and the whole fonts used in this is just one font. It's Garamond, basically medium, bold, and bold just down the bottom here, just sort of as a sign off, bold italic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click down here, and let's have a look at, see the text we've got. Well, this is basically also cloud fonts, but we've got open type fonts here. We've got our true type fonts. Oh, doesn't look like I'm getting the right one here, but let me see. Oh, what we've got also is something that's called variable. And this is a var font, V-A-R. I'm just going to click on this just to show you an example, but there's a few other ones that you'll find as well, and you can certainly download these. This is the best way of working. Let me show you why. So you might not like this particular view here with the type, but let me just click off that. Maybe it actually looks a little bit better, come to think of it. So it still hasn't encroached even with this negative leading here. So I might just stay with that, and you know, it's still a nice bold font, so I think I sort of quite like that. But anyway, nonetheless, let's have a look at the font. So if I just go back through in here and just double click on it, and I'm just going to highlight that like so, what I'm going to do is if I just look up and go make sure I'm on the text across here, we see this is looking pretty standard, right? And nothing's changed, but you will see something that's a little bit different. And at the moment it's bold, but we get this little var sign, okay? This means it's going to have extra things. So before it didn't have that. So what does that mean? If I click on this, you'll see in this case, there's only a few things, basically optical size and weight. But what that means, if that's a little bit heavy, instead of trying to find a demi-bold or semi-bold or something along the lines, whatever limitations of those fonts are, with variable fonts, including sometimes italics, whatever, it depends on how much is in that font, but you'll get these sliders. So if I just start sliding that down, you'll see that it's actually becoming less bold. And maybe I like that one a little bit better, but it's totally flexible all the way up to not being bold at all. So let me just find where I want to go, and I might stay with that one just in the middle here, and I'm just going to click back off that, and I've just softened down or lightened down that font just a little bit. So that's a variable font. So not all fonts are variable, but it's really the best way to go, and it gives you total flexibility and absolutely increment slight changes. So that's variable fonts. Okay, so what we're going to do is, now I've got my type down the bottom here, so what can I do with that? And of course making this graphic here. Okay, so a good way to do that is I'm just going to add a blank new page in there and just sort of repeat some of these things just a little bit. So if I just go up to my file and I'm going to go document, and I'm just going to go document setup. Basically, I've only just got my double page spread here, starting on page 2 from an earlier video, and of course facing as well. So I'm just going to increase this from start page or number of pages to 4. And I want facing pages, so I'm going to get some more facing pages. And now I'm going to have 4 pages, and I'll go OK. So basically, if I just drag that down here, there's another set of pages. Now, just if we have a look at the pages over here, we can see that it just created this blank pages here because we increased by 2 more pages. 4 pages, 2 spreads. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, just to get things going here, I'm going to go back to my work mode, and down here we can just use the W key to jump between preview and normal, or you can actually just use this flyout and just jump through here, but I just want to go back to normal just for the time being. You notice there is bleed already set up in this document. This is from an earlier video. I'm just going to remove that for the time being. And I'm just going to go to my pointer tool, and I just want to go through and work with this a little bit just with the text. So what I might do, if I've basically already set my text up here, so I'm just going to just highlight this section here, and I'm just going to copy that and just come down and just establish that I'm on the new pages here just by clicking on this next panel, and I'm just going to go edit, paste and place. And there it is with my headline already adjusted and everything there. Of course, remember we've got bleed in the document. Earlier video went through that. And we're going to put some text in. So just to do the text, by clicking on here, I'll just move that back into place. Let's see, type, we're going to use placeholder text. Now, just before we do that, of course, we need to have some text box or frame in place. So just go to your text tool here, and I'm just going to just drag out just some text over just a few frames. That should be enough. And I'm going to fill it with placeholder text. So type, fill with placeholder text. So that's just down here, and in comes the type. Now, what I want to do is I'm now just going to size this into place here and just get it nicely sized in just to fit. And rather than doing a continuation of just filling up the columns, I'm just really going to click like so by just clicking on here, and then I can just drag my columns out. Of course, these were already established in an earlier video, like so. Now, what I could do if I just undo that, I can hold my shift key, and you see it turns into continual flowing text. So if I click that, here it comes, but where's the next column of text? You might have seen it come in at the top. So it's going to actually go back and join in the column unless I had a text wrap on the above, which sort of no need to do that. So just essentially, if I just undo that, it was actually just easier in this case, because it's only just a little bit of text, so I can just save myself some time. It's actually quicker to do it that way. So I'll just click again, and I'm just going to put that in. I think that's just about fill it up. And I'll still one more, and I'll drop that in. Of course, this is just Mox text. We're going to delete some of this out of the way soon. In fact, I might even just delete this last one. Just make sure I'm in the type tool, and then that column is gone. So I've got my text in place. Now I just want to show you a couple of little tricks of putting this together. Now, number one, I don't want to have my hyphens there. In this case, I don't think it works. It's something up to you to consider. So just remember, if you don't remember from the earlier video, if I just select that, just Command A, we're going to come up here and take it from being the type tool to the paragraph tool, and we can come along here and there's just hyphen text, and that's out of the way there. Now let's see, if I just go back to my type tool, what font am I using here? Well, what I want to use is, I'm just going to use Garamond in this case, because I liked that before, but so I'm just going to go Garamond, it's coming up with the type I want. So I'm just going to click on this. Now this is actually the cloud-based font, but you choose whatever font you want, and I'm just going to drop that in there like so. So there it is, it's in there at this stage. Might be a little bit bolder than I initially intended, but nonetheless, we're just going to work with that for this example. Okay, now just a couple of things here worth considering. You know, there's some funny gaps and things like that, and also the leading I'm not happy with. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just select it all once more, just Command A, and I'm going to make sure I'm my type here, and I'm basically on auto type, sets auto here. So I'm on 12 point. Well, I don't want 12 point, as we talked about before. That's the size of a Word document. We want to go down maybe a little bit smaller. 11's quite good. So I'm actually going to do, I think, 11 on 18 point, just to give it some more legibility. And that's starting to look better, maybe even 19. I'll just try one more, just to get it filling out down the bottom there, just a little bit better. Of course, you can change the layout up the top a little bit, but we've got as much finesse, and the type was the easiest to change. Great, so I've got that, and see, here's my type starting to come in there quite nicely. Now we can look at our alignment just a little bit, and this is what I mentioned in an earlier video. Write the copy. It's about designing and also writing it. So you design it and you configure, you finesse your design, you also finesse the type that you're writing. It's a two-way street to get a lovely piece of work at the end of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all my type once more, and I'm just going to Command A, just so that's selected. Now, number one up here, I am in the typography setting just at the top here. If not, make sure you're in there, and if it's all been mixed up, you can reset that typography. It's already been set up, but I'm going to go to Paragraph. So in Paragraph, there's some really cool things in here. As I have mentioned earlier in another video, but nonetheless, InDesign created in its launch about, I think it was 1999 actually, when InDesign first came out. They used the Paragraph Composer. So what that does, this is just a little bit out of view here, is we have single line. This looks at just one line. It's on Paragraph Composer at the moment, but it has single line up the top therefore, which is the Adobe World Ready one. And I'm just going to try that to see what sort of a different style we're going to get. Actually, let's just have a look at the single line first. So as I say, just out of view a little bit there, but see how that changes, and that's just looking at one line at a time. This one, we'll look at the second one down here, it's the Paragraph Composer, and you just watch the type there. It reconfigures and it'll do the best job it can do to make this text look good. As I mentioned, this is where you can rewrite when you're working or change your copy. It's really a lot of finessing to try and get the exact right look, but for this example, I'm not going to worry about it too much, just to get an example of the type looking a little bit better, but it is certainly starting to look a little bit better at this stage. But you have to consider how skinny the columns are. Maybe that should have 2 columns as well, but I do want to have a graphic here at the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up there and just steal my graphic. Now this one I think has already got a text wrap on it, but I'm just going to Command C and come down here, and basically as soon as you click in, you establish where the other one is, and it should paste in the place of where you want it to go, and you see it's already moved that. So if I just click on that and oops, and just line it up there, and if I come up to my text wrap there, you'll see it's subject, or select subject, and it's on the third wrap around the object. So the subject actually puts a nice little line around there. So if I was just to default that again, I'll come back, and the select subject, you see this little line that goes around here, which I've simply just pushed out like so, maybe just a little bit further. So anyway, that is now all in place. We just want to make sure our type is a little bit better here, and also it's going to have a drop cap. So right, let's start off with a drop cap just to begin with. So all I do is just click in there. This is the paragraph. I've established it because the paragraph is defined on where the return key is pushed. So this definitely a paragraph here before it gets probably to the full stop, and where then you return it. Hard return, that is. Not a soft return, which is a shift return or enter on a PC. Nonetheless, let's just go up here and put a drop cap in. So I'll just close this one. And then I'm going to come up over the top here. Basically, I need to go into my paragraph tools here. And if we come along here, you'll see something which refers to drop cap. Now I'm in the right one here. That's fantastic. And let's see. Oh, there it is, drop caps. Now there's two parts here. So if I go 1, nothing has changed there. But basically it's saying how many letters I'm putting in there, like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. But I've just got 1. But this one defines that how this drop cap is affecting the lines. See, if you see this icon, if I just go 2 lines, there we've got the drop cap. So if I go 2 characters, then we've got the next character. So you can do some quite cool things like that. So essentially that's just putting the drop cap in. So that was pretty easy, but we want to do something a little bit more on steroids. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm just going to deselect that for the time being, and I'm going to come over and just to my type tool, just so I can just create some type. I'm going to do something that works with our illuminated manuscript type there. So I'm just going to click there, and I'm going to go, just for example, it was a B for the other one. I don't have to do a B. Maybe I'll do let's see, another letter. So I'll do an M, seeing we had an M, why not? So I'm just going to make sure that I do want a drop cap for this one. Not a drop cap, sorry, a large M. In fact, maybe I could have even used this M and just copied it in there. Nonetheless, I'm just going to highlight that and go back here and just choose the font that I want. And let's see, I'm just going to go back to my Garamond. And I might go to something, let's see, we've got bolder text there. So I want that one, just to give it a little bit bolder. And of course, I'm just going to make it nice and big. Now, if it's a bit out of view there, it's just because it's too big for that space. And there it is. Okay, so that's going to work great for what I want. Now, one thing I do want to do with this now is turn it into a graphic, because we're going to do some cool stuff with it. So with this graphic here, all I need to do is convert it to outline. So as long as that's selected there and you go to type, you're going to see create outlines. It's no longer type, it's now a graphic. With that, I'm just going to size it. So I'm just going to hold my shift key just to restrain it there and just bring it to the size that I want. And I'm just going to bring it a little bit into the copy, just like so. Make sure it's down there a little bit to line up with the bottom. And if it's not quite right, of course I can just hold my shift key and make it just a little bit bigger, if you wanted that size, that is. Then of course, since it's a graphic here, I'm going to come along and text wrap. So I'll click on text wrap, and I'm going to use my good old object command there, and just, oh, that's sort of doing quite a good job. But with this one here, I want to make sure both sides, no, I don't need both sides, just a drop cap right hand side. And of course I can just bring that up just a little bit to push it in there. Okay, now that's looking pretty good. And so I've got my graphic there. Of course I don't want this drop cap now, that's just getting a little bit overboard. So just with that clicked in there, not highlighted, it's just clicked. So I just come along and look, where was that drop cap? Somewhere in here before. And just make sure I'm on the type there, or it is selected in there. And we should see just along here that, why isn't that working? Because I'm not in my paragraphs. Nice and simple. Just go back to 0, and there you go, it's gone. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is start playing with this graphic a little bit. For a start, I just want to select it, and I'm going to bring out my colors here. So let's see, colors, swatches. Now you can do strokes or anything you want on this graphic. I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. And I've just got my shape in like so. Speaking of a shape, I'm going to add to that shape, and we're going to use the Pathfinder tool. So what I'm going to do is just going to put some little, sort of like a bubble car, I suppose. I'm just going to click on the circle here, or the sphere shape, oval shape, and I'm holding my Option key and Shift key just to take it out from the center. And of course, what I want to do is just give it a fill. If you make sure it's not the stroke, but it's the fill, you can also change it around just here as well. So, okay, back to the pointer tool, and what I'm going to do is just, I'm I'm just going to plonk that in like so, and maybe oops, so I'm going to option click, just option drag it, and just make a couple of others, maybe one down here a little bit, just to get it, and maybe one up the top here, and maybe even size it down just a little bit. And I've got my graphic here. So I'm just going to highlight all these graphics. Make sure you're not highlighting the text too. So if you have that selected like so, you can hold your shift key and just deselect it without selecting everything else. You can see this overlaps. What we want to make it is one. So we just go to the object tool and just come down here. You'll see Pathfinder, and I'm not going to subtract these. I want to add them together. And now you see it's just one. Okay, so what we might need to do is just look at our text wrapped again. So I'm just going to come down text wrap, and actually it threw it away. So I just have to go back there and just make sure that that's right side. That's cool, and just add a little bit of, great. Now there it is in place. As I said, we're doing a sort of a bit of a illuminated manuscript type style. So of course I better save that. So just make sure you file save it at every stage. I've saved it with Command S, Control S on a PC. So let's give it some effects here. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here, even though this has got a text wrap, no problems, I want to make it just a little bit more unique. So just before I do that, I just want to show you a few effects here. So down here, we've got this gradient tool. It's a feather tool. You can actually just grab hold of, making sure I do select on this, and then just make sure it's selected first, and then just drag over a line there, and you can do things like this transparency. You can do it from the other side as well. Now, if anything you do want to get rid of, by the way, you can just, instead of just undoing, you simply just go up to, you're going to have some effects here, and you can just go, no, I don't want that, by clicking on the trash. They're just going to appear here, just under effects. Speaking of effects, while we're on the effects here, you can access it from up here, basically effects, and there's drop shadows and all sorts of things, or you can access it from here. But seeing this is just out of view, it's got the same things here, so I might just use this one so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to put a drop shadow in there, and I do want to match it to the light source. So if I just bring that in, we can play with our light source here like so. Maybe it's just a little bit dark there, or I can even change the color. I think I'll stay with the black, but I just will just bring this down just a little bit, just to make it a bit softer. And it's essentially you can change your spread as well as the light source there as well. So I'm going to leave this up to your one, or if you're using this. You also got things like bevel and emboss, so we're really getting that manuscript type feel. But before I do anything like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it a little bit more simple. I think I did just up the top here a dropped shadow, just like I showed you then. But what I'm going to do is just with the selected, make sure well, I will select it in a minute, but I'm just going to basically select this graphic here because I do want to use this, just Command C, and I'm going to click that, and then we've got edit, and we can come down here and we can just go, what is it, paste into. And here's our graphic here. Now what I'm going to do is something even a little bit more interesting. Maybe I'll go back to the drop shadow. There it is, because it was transparent, we're on this transparent color here. What I want to do is put a bit of a gradient behind that. So the other tool just above this transparency gradient type tool, the feather tool, is the one that gradient swatch. So I can just click on that, and I'm just going to drag through, and basically it's dragging a second color. Normally it goes to black. Let's just go and have a look at what's going on here. Gradient. And you see I've already got some colors that I was using with the file above. So if I just bring my swatches out here, and I'll bring this gradient tool back up once more, so gradient, open up the swatches. Essentially you can drag any number. I'll drag one into the center there it is, just to make this more interesting, or click on this and basically drag a color onto maybe this one as well, and then I've taken it back to the blue, etc., or drag it off if you don't want it. So make sure you do drag it right onto it. And there it is, it's right on the top. And I think I'll stay with that one. And of course, what I'm going to do is once more, just up under the add a drop shadow in there. You can do it from the right hand side, from the effects of course, or as we mentioned up here, I'm just going to come down here and let's see, drop shadow effects. Maybe I'm just going to go through here and let's see, drop shadow. Yes, I'll put that in there. So there's a drop shadow, and also going to put some bevel and emboss. And there it's coming along there. Maybe it's a little bit heavy there. I'll just drop the color down a little bit. Oh, so that was the shadow. Make sure you select each one. But I think I might stay with that one. Don't mind that one, etc. But if you select it, then you can make sure you change the right ones as you're putting them through. Let's see, we've got an inner glow as well. See how that's going to go. Just a tiny subtle thing there. So essentially, there is our manuscript. So, or not manuscript, but drop cap. And if I just come back down here, pointer tool, and I'm just going to either go W key, or what we can do is just go back to the preview view. You can see that now you've done your special illuminated manuscript type style. Now there's one other thing I'm going to show you. It's really a little bit slightly more advanced, but it really does add to getting a beautiful alignment within your copy here. So if we just go back, I'm going to hit the W key this time, so we're just back in the normal view. Now there's one thing here that you can do basically to better alignment. I think this text seems to be lining up because I copied and pasted, but let's just test it out. So a great thing to really sort things out, if I just come back into with the type here, so I'm just going to click there, and I'm going to go Command A just so everything's selected, and on the paragraph tool here we have this thing which is where we can align to baseline. So if I click on that, it's suddenly aligned beautifully, and let's have a look. I'll just undo this just so you see what's going on here. To activate this, I go up to InDesign and I go to Preferences, and let's see, Grids is what I want to go to. And Grids here, if I come down here, you're going to see something like the there's a document grid, but down here, just at the bottom, when I'm on the grids, you're also going to see the baseline grid, which is actually at the top. So document grid here, I'll just show you what that looks like in a minute as well. So we can turn that on and change it to basically this grid pattern. But our baseline grid, we want to get things to line up. Now, let's see, I've had 19 points, so it's going to all line up. And this makes sure that all your lines are just perfect when you actually activate this. Really good feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go OK just for the time being, and I'm going to go to the view here and see grids, and I'm going to go and turn on show baseline grid. And you see how everything should be lining up here. Now, it was set at, I think, 19 point here. But what we can do is you go back to the preferences at any stage. This might not be the perfect design, but just to showcase how this works. So grids again, and baseline grid here. So let's say I'll make it, say, 20, just for example. Or to make it obvious, I'm going to make it 22. So it might not be perfect, but just so we can see what's happening here. And I'll go OK. Okay, see how it's increased? And it's not lining up now. So what we need to do is, it's not lined up, so we click on Align to Baseline Grid. And you see you get this perfect alignment that forms here. In fact, that spacing looks a little bit better. So it's about going backwards and forwards and just getting the finesse. Of course, when you want to turn that off, you just come back to your view, and just basically here, it's just grids and hide baseline grid. If you wanted to show your and work with where I showed you before, to access from the preference and actually work with grids when you're doing really perfect alignment, maybe for a map or something that really needs the full grid effect, again, same thing, view, grids, and you can show not the baseline grid but your document grid, and basically that comes up, and you can change that equally as well. At the moment it's just in a little bit messy there, so what I'm going to do is just going to go back to my view there, and I'm just going to view grids and just hide that. So essentially, if I just go back to my W key once more, making sure don't have any type selected there, and then it goes back to just that preview. And so that's putting together the graphic. We've already got our setup and our double page spread. So if I just have a look at the one at the top, you can see that you can really go crazy with your illuminated manuscript type drop cap, if you will, and really start controlling that inverse leading to really work with display type, and of course line up to perfection with the baseline grid, your type. So enjoy putting your work together and your double page spreads, your magazine ads and editorials, whatever, and best of luck. So thanks for watching.